Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shook Sports Take YouTube channel. Today's topic is going to be the Arsenal versus Liverpool game that happened just this weekend. We're at the international break now, so kind of space in between now and the next game. I did have quite a few thoughts on the Arsenal game and Liverpool game as a whole. I made a TikTok about it. If you've seen that, that's awesome. If you wanted to go see it anyway, although I'll be covering the same topics here, it's on the Shook Speaks Ball TikTok page. So, to get right into it, it is kind of funny to me that Arsenal are the ones getting a lot of the "oh, you didn't attack, you didn't try to win the game" shouts when Liverpool were just as defensive. It happened in different phases. Arsenal were very much more the dominant side in the first half. Nothing came of it, so be it. And then Liverpool looked a lot better than Arsenal did in the second half. A lot really more to risk it. But then they didn't really have anything come of it either until a very, very, very nice free kick from Dominic Szoboszlai struck the back of the net, and I think the 82nd minute. So to say Arsenal didn't attack the game but Liverpool did is completely wrong, and to only criticize Arsenal for being defensive is also wrong because neither team, especially in the first half, really went for it, really tried to win it. So for me, I think maybe some of it is coming with the way Mikel Arteta lined up the Arsenal side, and I'll get that into that in a minute. But I don't think either manager really sent all out to win that game or to score more than one goal. Both seemed content at draws until late in the stages, and then even then, Arsenal subs were more attacking than Liverpool's were, bringing on Max Dowman, bringing on Eberechi Eze and Martin Odegaard. They went out of their way to try to win the game, and Dowman was the only one that came on after Arsenal were losing. The other two came on before that. So for me, it is very strange to only criticize Arsenal, but that is quite beside the point. Just in terms of how the game was lined up. Now, this could be where I see people being angry with Mikel Arteta. He lines up in a traditional 4-3-3 that he's used pretty much since he started at Arsenal. It's been a variation of this, and the back line was as everyone expected. It was Calafiori at the left, it was Timber on the right, Saliba and Gabriel ahead of David Raya. Of course, Saliba came off 4 minutes in. Originally, that was a worry that had come from a collision or a non-contact injury. He had actually messed up his ankle. I think he rolled his ankle in warm-ups, tried to play, couldn't. And then Christian Mosquera came in. I'll get into his performance in a minute because I thought he was very, very good. But the midfield is where the issue lies because Martin Zubimendi played next to Declan Rice, and our creative midfielder was Mikel Merino. Now, there's an issue with that for quite a few reasons, in my opinion. The first being that that's a defensive midfielder, and while he scored at a rather impressive rate last season, he is not an attacking midfielder. He's not going to spark a plug of creativity to this side. So it was quite the odd decision. I think Arteta saw it and said, I want to be defensively solid, and we'll hit them on the counterattack. That's where Liverpool have been vulnerable this season. And I don't disagree with that decision that they've been vulnerable on the counterattack, but we are not equipped properly right now to counterattack effectively, not without Bukayo Saka, and not with the way Gabriel Martinelli's been playing in transition. He's been really quite poor. And, with that, there was going to be no service for Victor Gyökeres without number 10, and there wasn't a number 10, so he really struggled to get into the game. And I think that was also another big byproduct of starting Mikel Merino. The biggest issue for me, however, is that in doing so, by starting Mikel Merino, you did not have a left-footed corner taker to take an in-swinging corner from the right-hand side of the field. In-swinging corners is something that Arsenal have absolutely dominated just about every team in European football with. Why on earth in your biggest game you would ever go out there without the option of an in-swinging corner from that side and force Declan Rice to take out swingers, something he is not very good at, because he is a brilliant in-swinging taker. He delivers a peach of a ball pretty much every time he takes an in-swinger. His out-swingers were so poor, so poor. And it really costs us because I do think there's a situation where Arsenal could have won that game 1-0 off a corner had they taken in swinging corners, and they've been able to take in swinging corners that whole time. And look, I get it if Eze wasn't ready. Well, he's right-footed, so that doesn't really help that. But if Eze wasn't ready to start, that would be why he didn't. Or if Martin Odegaard was still recovering from an injury and was not fit enough to play, I could understand why he didn't start. But not using Ethan Nwaneri, especially when he's left-footed, really frustrated me. It did. And I could not believe how poor our set pieces looked when we've been so good at them. And it was simply because we aren't equipped to take out swingers. And it really hurt Arsenal's game. And it was quite a frustrating moment in that we couldn't produce off something that we should be able to execute. So that is just one of the reasons Ethan Nwaneri not starting over Mikel Moreno frustrated me. Again, the other being the lack of creativity in the midfield, the lack of desire to take the game, because that game was very much for the taking in the first half for Arsenal. I think a fully healthy Arsenal, even without Bukayo Saka, say Saka still doesn't play because I thought Noni Madueke looked pretty good, just say that Martin Odegaard or Eze or the number 10, I think Gyökeres ends up with a chance and he probably does score. So I do think that Arsenal could have been leading 1-0 at halftime if they had had a number 10, which they didn't. So there's criticism for Mikel Arteta that I will be willing to hear. I'm not going to hear that the players on the field didn't try to win the game or that mindset-wise he didn't want to win the game, because that's not quite true. He just made an error in the decision in the lineup, and he opted to be more defensively solid when we should have really been trying to gun for it. And I do understand that this is something that feels like it happens all the time with Arteta. People will say that the same thing happened against PSG and the UCL, but the point I raised to you is that we didn't line up to attack Real Madrid when we beat them 3-0 at the Bernabeu. We lined up with a number 9 who was actually a defensive midfielder, and Partey played next to Declan Rice. And we didn't really take that game to Real Madrid. We relied on moments of magic, and then that led to us having an opportunity to score a third goal when Madrid really felt that they had to go. So moments of magic do win you big games, and that's why Liverpool deserve all 3 points, because they were able to produce that moment. But I thought overall, and I said this in the TikTok, that I thought for the most part a fair result of that game would have been a draw. But Liverpool deserved to win the game because they produced such an incredible shot as Szoboszlai did. So on that front, it was a frustrating game for an Arsenal fan to watch. But overall, I certainly don't know if the criticism of Arteta is as warranted as being given, and I definitely don't think that the slander that's coming from rival fans and even from people who work for Sky Sports, Gary Neville and Kasper Schmeichel both taking numerous shots at Arsenal for not trying to win the game was quite pathetic. So for me, that's the issues with the Arsenal lineup. And then I don't really see any holes with the way Liverpool lined up. I thought overall the team was very, very solid. The game plan from Arne Slot was a lot better. He knew that if he wanted to continue to send that many numbers forward as he did against Bournemouth, if you wanted to send that many numbers against Arsenal, you would have gotten yourself mauled. And so he had Szoboszlai sit back. I'm not sure if he overlapped Salah at all, really, in that match. And Kirkez was up and down a little bit, but nowhere near to the level he was in the first 2 games. So for me, Arne Slot got it absolutely right. He did everything he needed to make sure his side could get to a point where they could win the game, and Szoboszlai took advantage of that. So overall, I thought Liverpool nailed it. Gravenberch and McAllister together in a midfield caused Martin Zubimendi a lot of issues, and I thought Wirtz had one of his best games in a Liverpool shirt this far. Salah, however, was pretty much a non-factor for me, and that's not something that is really an issue for Liverpool at the moment, because Hugo Ekitike and now it's going to be Alexander Isak are going to pretty comfortably be able to score enough goals to see this Liverpool side win a title. Mohamed Salah no longer has to be the 50-goal contribution player that he was last season, and if he does get back to that form, then Liverpool is going to be absolutely incredible and might go on to win the treble. And if he doesn't, they should still be able to pretty much handle anything that they see in the Premier League. So Salah not being at his best this far isn't really a concern for Liverpool fans. It shouldn't be anyway. You'd like to see him playing his best, but you're still 3-0. You've won all 3 games. You're 3-0-0. Um, but you haven't seen the output of Salah yet. Yeah, of course, he scored, and I think he had an assist against Newcastle, but you're not seeing the performances that you expect of Mo Salah, and that really isn't an issue at the moment, and that's why this window's been so important for them. It's taken so much pressure off Salah to be the elite level attacker that he is, and it's allowed for other outlooks for Liverpool to find the net, and that's a big deal. So, yeah, overall, again, I think Liverpool really nailed it in terms of not only the game plan, but the way they lined up. And that takes us into the first half. The notable performances all coming from Arsenal in the first half. I thought Noni Madueke had a really good game. As I said already, I think up against Kirkez is not something we expected success for, especially without Bukayo Saka. You thought the level would drop, but it really didn't. I thought he was quite comfortably the best attacker on the pitch for Arsenal. And he gave Kirkez a lot of trouble. Now, did Kirkez deal with it all eventually? Yeah, but he was giving Kirk has a lot to think about. His pace, he is so rapid. A lot of pace in a player like that. And he was getting by Kirkez, and these long balls that were seeking him were very good. I think a lot of them were played by Declan Rice, and it was causing issues for Milos Kirkez and causing Van Dijk to have to slide over. Now, again, nothing came of it, which was unfortunate. There was no output to these chances, but he did give Kirkez quite a few issues. That is all I'm asking from Gabriel Martinelli. Just make your outside back think. Make him react to something. He doesn't have to react when there's just this sidestepping, shuffling nonsense. And I'll touch more on Martinelli later, but yeah, I thought Noni Madueke looked really, really good, and it was a shame that he couldn't quite create any real chances. And yeah, for me, Noni Madueke was pretty comfortable in that game, and it was a relief to see a winger on the right wing who could produce, not named Bukayo Saka. And I don't mean produces and score or assist, because he didn't, but he had a good game, and we haven't seen a right winger. I mean, I guess Ethan Nwaneri, but he's not really a winger, is he? He had a few good games on that wing last year, but yeah, it was nice to see that the depth is paying off, and more depth paying off would have been when Christian Mosquera did come on for Arsenal. I've never been more worried in my life seeing William Saliba come off 5 minutes into a game against Liverpool, the reigning title holders, and yet maybe after the first 3 minutes, you could tell Christian Mosquera was very much going to hold it down. He looked very comfortable on the football, which I imagine a lot of that is having played in Spain for so long. And he's very strong, physical and very strong. Ekatike really didn't have any looks in this game. He had the one chance, which I think actually ended up being offside when Liverpool technically scored their first goal before it was overruled. But yeah, I mean, Ekatike didn't really do a whole lot. And Gakpo cutting in had a few shots, but he wouldn't even run at Christian Mosquera. Didn't lose many aerial battles, if any. And he looked great. He looked very confident. So that was a very redeeming decision there. And it's something to look forward to, Arsenal fans, because Andrea Berta has already stated that these are the kind of signings that excite him. Cheap deals of players who have a lot of potential to become something very, very solid. So he looked great. I'm really excited about seeing him continue to play. And yeah, I mean, there's not really any worry. We aren't going to have to rush Saliba back if he's not fit by the time we play Nottingham Forest after the international break, which is a very good thing to see. And he also is a right-footed center back. Kivior was doing a job there last season, or a few seasons ago when Saliba was hurt. But to see a right-footed center back playing on the right side is just that little bit more of that comfort, and that makes a difference. Just the way he plays in terms of how things sway from side to side and how the ball moves at the back line. So yeah, he was really good. Wasn't given too many issues. And then the last performance of the first half I want to talk about is Gabriel Martinelli, who I thought was quite poor once again. And it's very frustrating because Gabriel Martinelli has so many likable characteristics. You know, his willingness to defend is probably some of the best in terms of wingers in the entire world. Um, his work rate is ridiculous. The guy does not stop running. He is up and down constantly, but the issue is when he's running up the field, he doesn't do anything with the ball. There's that one run in the first half. Arsenal end up, it's at David Raya's hands. He picks his head up, throws a ball out for Martinelli. Arsenal have a 4-on-4 with Liverpool's back line, and Martinelli with Victor Gyökeres to his left, and I think it's Mikel Merino making a run through, just doesn't do anything with it. He dribbles himself to the sideline, cuts off Victor Gyökeres to get to his space rather than just playing Gyökeres the ball and continuing to stay in the middle. And he dribbles into this space, then he sizes up. At that point, I think it was Kanate, but it might have been Sabazlai. He just shuffles down the line, runs out of space, and gives up. Doesn't even win a corner. He gives the ball away, and it pans out into a goal kick. And that is the kind of thing that is so frustrating because Martinelli in 22-23 would have gotten that ball and said, I am sprinting at the goal and shooting. And that would have been absolutely fantastic. If he had just put his head down, run at the space between Kanate and Van Dijk, and shot, the odds we score are probably pretty strong. There's at least a chance there. Maybe somebody grabs a rebound. Or he could have used Victor Gyökeres out left, but he doesn't. Instead, he dribbles and just doesn't do anything with it. And it is so frustrating. I'm so sick and tired of watching this winger do the same thing over and over. That's not even a proper right back that he's facing. It's Dominic Szoboszlai, who had a great game, and he looked great against Newcastle in that position, but it's a makeshift right back. He is not a Premier League level defender. And Martinelli wouldn't even try to run at him, like properly run at him. I'm talking take a touch and just beat him on pace. Eze did it in the first chance he got up against Szoboszlai. Went down the line, and again, it doesn't pan out to anything, but that's the difference for me, and that's why Eze is going to very comfortably win this left wing battle, because he's willing to drive at a defender, and Martinelli just is simply not. And I have no idea what's changed and what's caused this issue, but it is glaringly obvious. Into the second half, well, I've already touched on Salah. He just wasn't really a factor, and some of that is Calafiori being very good defensively, but the other part being that he just isn't really doing much when he gets the ball. He's making the right runs. He's still a threat. They're still getting him the ball, but when he's getting it, I don't know. I mean, he had that one cross that Raya had to bobble and then catch, and that would have been a stupendous ball had it gotten to Ekitike. But yeah, Salah just doesn't really look like himself at the moment, and I don't know how long that will last, but we'll have to wait and see. Szoboszlai, again, fantastic. Even defensively, Martinelli gave him no issues, which isn't as much of a compliment to him as it is an insult to Martinelli. In the actual strike itself, my goodness, I don't know if I've seen a free kick struck that well since Declan Rice in the UCL. But even then, I mean, the effort itself is so good. There's been some talk about when a free kick's that far out, there shouldn't be a wall there at all. And I thought that was quite interesting to think that if there's no wall there, that David Raya is then stood in the middle of his goal, and he probably could have gotten to that ball if he was taking, because he would have stood probably 2 steps to the left side, to the shooter's right side. And if he's in the middle of the goal, he probably gets there. But overall, we're not going to take nothing away from Dominic Szoboszlai's free kick. That was a stellar effort, to say the least. It was a very, very good effort. And there's a lot to like from his performance overall. Defensively, just looked really solid. You don't know how much longer he'll have to play there. His work rate, again, that's somebody else whose work rate is just off the charts. The guy runs all the time. And yeah, he was very good. He was the difference maker in the game. So a lot to like from his performance. And then Ryan Gravenberch, as I spoke about him a little bit, he and Alexis McAllister gave so many issues to Zubimendi, who I felt at times was quite by himself. And then in the second half, Declan Rice started to help out, but then Curtis Jones came on, and that's another one. Curtis Jones caused a lot of issues, and that's when the game started to swing in Liverpool's favor because he kept finding himself in these half spaces that were very open, and it led to a lot of problems for Arsenal. That's when Liverpool started pouring on the pressure. I think he actually won the free kick that led to Arsenal conceding. So yeah, Curtis Jones looked really good, but Gravenberch on the ground, he just doesn't lose duels, and him and McAllister together were picking the ball off of Zuvamendi and evading Rice, and that was where it looked like it made sense to bring in Mikel Merino because that extra defensive support, and that was the only reason that Arsenal could win the ball back at times is because they had three midfielders in there that were willing to, or that are very good at dueling, and that must have been the reason Mikel Arteta had chosen to start him. But Ryan Gravenberch is just very, very good. He's the heart and soul of that Liverpool team, and I think that was one of the reasons that they did struggle a little bit against Bournemouth. Having that game been at 2-2 at one point before they eventually saddled up and got it done. But overall, Liverpool were good. They were a bit defensive, so were Arsenal, and they deserved to win the game. That would take us to the outcome of this game. What do I think will happen? Well, Liverpool are title favorites. They were title favorites before the game. I know Arsenal were favorites in the actual game, which was a bit odd to me. Liverpool are still comfortably the title favorites, and bringing in Isak makes that even more likely. But I don't think it's crazy to say that Arsenal can't still win the title. They still have all the pieces. They only have to play Liverpool one more time, and their record against Liverpool at home is very, very good. So to assume that this is over and Arsenal will already not be able to win the title and that they're already coming second, jokes aside, whatever, is quite crazy. To assume that it's already over after just one game of football. But Liverpool look very good, and if they continue to play defensively that well, a lot of teams are going to struggle to get any form of result, let alone beat them. So I think Liverpool are comfortably the favorites, but it doesn't mean that Arsenal can't still go on to win the title, especially when you have to consider that that was probably, outside of Jeremy Frimpong, Liverpool's starting 11. I say that as in Frimpong not being available. He was the only one really missing from that team. It was Liverpool's strongest team, and after 5 minutes, Arsenal were not only missing their most important attacker, but also their most important defender, maybe the second most important defender between who you prefer between Gabriel and Saliba, but you also didn't have the captain on the pitch and Martin Odegaard, and their new left winger, left attacking midfielder in Eze wasn't there. So it wasn't Arsenal's strongest team, and I'm not making excuses because they still should have played much better than they did. But when you look at it from that perspective, Arsenal already have several injuries that prohibited them from starting their strongest 11, and Liverpool did start their strongest 11. So that, to me, tells me that Arsenal are still very much in a place where they can challenge for this league title, and a big win over Forest, leading in them to face Man City as well as Newcastle. If they can pick up results at those places, I think it's Man City at home, but then at St. James's Park. If they can pick up 2 back-to-back results there, Liverpool will not feel as comfortable, or it will mean that much more to them, if anything, that they did pick up the 3 points against Arsenal. But Arsenal could really get rolling, and if they do so, then we really have another race on our hands. Don't sleep on Chelsea either. I don't think that they're going to be neck and neck in the title race, but they've looked good this far. They've looked very good, in fairness, and we'll see how they match up against one of Liverpool and Arsenal. I don't know who they play first, but they're still going to be around. But I think Arsenal or Liverpool will be your winner, and right now I'd have to say it's Liverpool. I do think that they're going to be title favorites, and that is pretty much everything I have for today. So thank you for whoever is tuning in, and I will see you all soon.